Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. My name is Maggie. If you're new here, thanks so much for tuning in to Dropping into Happiness. My regular co host, Rachel, is very much under the weather. I'm hoping that by the time that this episode goes live, she will be feeling much, much better. But we had a guest, and some of you all might already be familiar with this wonderful, wonderful person. But I want to go ahead and turn the mic to our ranting Weight Watcher, Donato. Hey, Donato,
Hi,
welcome.
how
Hey,
are you?
I'm
Uh,
great. I'm glad you're here.
so my name is Donato Russo. If you don't know me, I have also a podcast called The Ranting Weight Watcher. I am happy to fill in for Rachel, although she is much better looking than me. Uh, I hope I do it justice. I hope I do it justice. But I have been on Weight Watchers this time around since January 2019. So this coming January 12th, it will be my 4-year anniversary.
Woo, that's
And
awesome.
down so far, I am down 154 pounds as
Wow.
of this last weigh-in. So it's been a great ride this time around, and a lot of things have clicked, and a lot of things that I've learned um, that I you realize what you don't take seriously, and then all of a sudden when you take everything seriously is when it just clicks.
Yeah.
And I had to be over 400 pounds twice in my life to finally get it to click.
Hmm. I think that's just so inspirational because what I'm hearing is that it's really not too late. It's never
Right.
too late for it to click. And you were mentioning, this time around I was successful or this time around I joined. So what do you think was different for you? What did that click look like? Like how did it manifest itself to say, okay, it's coming up on 4 years and I haven't given up?
I in 2006, no, 2004, I had gastric bypass surgery.
Mm,
I was 460 pounds. In 1 year I went from 460 to 277.
mm,
In that time, I never changed my behavior. All of the behavior stayed the same. I just wasn't allowed to eat as much, right? It
right.
doesn't matter how much of a Big Mac you eat, it's that you're eating the Big Mac sometimes, right?
Mm,
Um, and so I spent the next 15 years of my life getting back to 400
mm,
and in denial, in complete denial. And on my 40th birthday, I stepped on the scale, and it was not a good one. Let's just say like that. It was not a good weigh in. I had made it to 403, which was almost all of the weight had come back, and it was just you better get yourself together, because the gastric bypass was supposed to be my second chance, right,
right.
at life.
Mhm.
And now here I am. This is kind of like my third chance, if we're really thinking about it here. And I'm not a cat. I don't have 9 lives. So we've got to get this
At
right.
least we don't want to test to find out.
Something like that.
Wow. So, what would you say, you mentioned behavior change
Yeah.
was the
Yeah.
key for you. What was one behavior that you think made the biggest impact that you've shifted in these past 4 years?
When I, um, initially, when I joined, instead of it being about trying to eat the way I was eating when I was gaining,
Mhm.
it became, what do I like in the world that is supposed to be healthy, right?
Mm,
So it became tasting. I want to say the first 3 months of my journey, it was just about tasting the foods that other Weight Watcher members say were, healthier, low on points, whatever it was. Taste this, taste that. And then as I started to say, well, I really like this, I really like that, I built what was still today my plan, my food regimen.
mhm,
And it basically became ev- I don't know how many people actually eat this way, but I eat the same breakfast 7 days a week, the
mhm,
same lunch 6 or 7 days a week, and dinner is weekly.
mhm,
Every Monday is the same, every Tuesday is the same, so on. but I built this library, so to speak, of food that I knew was healthy because it came from other Weight Watcher members, and that I knew that I liked. And because I could depend on it being something, I just knew that it would be okay. And I
Right.
also, I said to myself, because a lot of my poor decisions came when I was hungry. I
Mm.
would make the decision of what to eat when I was hungry. So I said to myself, well, if I never feel hungry, maybe I'll never make a poor decision, which is not right, but it definitely helps. That's for sure. And I made it. I actually, like, so analytical about this. I actually wrote it down. I would eat breakfast at a certain time and then start writing it down. Well, I feel hungry right now, and it's 10 a.m., right?
Mm.
Or 11 a.m., whatever it is. And then I'd say, okay, what can I eat out of all the foods that I like? What can I eat at a half hour before 11 so that
Mm.
I never get to the point where I'm hungry at 11?
Right.
And so I'd pick an apple, or I'd pick, whatever it is. And that's how I became this regimented way of eating. I call it scheduled eating. I eat on a schedule. I don't eat because I'm hungry.
Mm.
And I make it so that my one goal is to never, ever feel hungry, because then that's when things go wrong. It's just the way it always has. But
Hmm. It's like when we get to the point of no return, right? It's like I say I'm going down when I feel so hungry that my clarity of mind just escapes me, and then I forget what does a healthy choice look like, or I see the apple and I'm like, I don't want the apple. That's not going to satisfy me because I feel ravenous, right? But if I would have just planned a bit ahead or cut it to the chase a bit earlier, the apple would have made total sense. So I think
right,
the schedule and the routine, so many of us can thrive off of that, making sure that our body is satisfied. So we're not
right,
feeling those feelings of deprivation and, okay, well, then what am I going to choose? We're in that hot state, which, we've talked about for those that are not Weight Watchers. We talk about that in workshops, the idea of the hot state versus the cold state and all of that, and taking advantage of the cold state. So it sounds like, Donato, you've really found success in the anchors of your go-to meals, and then
right.
having that routine of knowing like what to expect, when to expect it. It takes a lot of the guessing
Oh
out
yeah,
of it for sure.
it actually is. It's life changing to know. Okay, you're a little. It's 9:30. You're a little hungry, but you're eating at 10. All right, we'll go for that. We'll make it, and you know
Right.
exactly what you're going to eat at 10. It
Mhm.
just it helps you immensely.
Yeah, reduces a lot of the friction when it
Hmm?
comes to, living the healthy lifestyle. So that's great. It's really cool to pick your brain, because what's so great about this journey is everybody's version of what works for them can be slightly different, but we get those ideas from each other. You think, oh my gosh, I'm out, there might be a listener out there who's still really struggling, and they hear you share that and they think, oh, well, let me give that a go. And then it can make a really big impact. So I think that's really great. Well, this week, y'all, our episode is coming out the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to all of our sun drops out there. I know me and Rachel are very thankful for you all. And of course, again, thankful for Donato for being able to fill in today. Um, for Rachel. So we had the idea in mind of talking about gratitude, what gratitude means, and how expressing gratitude and making that a regular part of our daily practice could impact our overall health and wellness journey. So, Donato, what would you say gratitude means to you?
Um, I think I'm definitely grateful for the support that I have,
Hmm.
and the when so what it means to me, what gratitude means to me is basically that uh being you have to have an anchor point of when things get tough, because they're always going to get tough.
Hmm.
You have to think of, okay, remember back to this point, you were this it was even tougher then, and it's like you almost make peace with your old self,
Mm.
because if it wasn't for those moments, you wouldn't be as strong as you are now, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
if you made it through those tough moments as your old self, your current self should be able to handle whatever you're dealing with now, right?
Mm,
Especially, when you talk about my journey being, at 150 some odd pounds, I can look back to many different points in my life, not just this Weight Watcher for journey, but I can look back to even when I was gastric bypass, recovery phase and all that stuff. All of that has contributed to become the person I am now with
right.
the behavior, whatever it is.
Yeah. So it sounds like you have a lot of gratitude for just the bigger picture,
The
like
experience.
the
Yeah.
yeah, the experience that you've been on, even through the, this being your fourth go, or no, third go around, you said, but this is coming up on your fourth year, or
Yeah,
however.
third, my third chance, I call it.
Yeah, yeah, your third chance, right? Even still, it's like all of that was worth it because it made you the person that you are today. And I think that can be such a humbling thing, and it can be so helpful when you're in the thick of it to look back at like the bigger picture. And I think like this conversation goes beyond weight loss or
Oh yeah.
even just like general wellness. This is like a life kind of thing to practice gratitude. And for me, it's like Donato was saying, really recognizing the bigger picture, and it can be something as simple as like, oh, I really want this sweater, but it's, $40 and I don't want to spend the money. Well, I'm thankful I have a sweater because there are some people out there who have no sweaters and they really need them. Like just like little moments like that, like talk yourself off the ledge
Right.
when you're kind of like being difficult, as I call myself, my bratty inner teenager, or when I think about, I don't know, Donato, if you've ever felt that living healthy is hard, but I sometimes get like the little bratty teenager in me, like, this is so hard. Like, I just always have to think about points and I always have to think about planning my food and why can't I just eat whatever I want and all this. And then to say, well, I have the opportunity to prioritize my health and wellness, or I have the opportunity to go on this super long run that I don't want to do because my legs function and they work, and I have this beating heart that works. And it's just like a perspective shift. It just like really brings you back down to earth. Have you ever had those like moments where you just like didn't want to be committed, but then like gratitude pulled you through?
I had in the beginning of my return when it came to in January 2019. If I I I think those of that year, that whole year was that same thing you were talking about, the bratty teenager kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if my weigh-in day went the wrong direction, it ruined the weekend.
Mm,
And I look back at it now, if I think about those, because I've had moments where I reflect back to those weekends where I'm flipping out and all kinds of stuff, and just like, oh man, it was so stupid to think that way. But in the same token, if you didn't go through this, if you didn't keep going in these moments, you would not be here where you are, right? So you have to
mm-hmm.
be thankful, even though you don't like them when you look at back at your behavior.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be thankful for them because you still chose to keep going
Right.
in those moments.
Practicing gratitude in the setbacks. I was
Yes.
like, that made me who am today, and I kept going. And you're building that self-efficacy, like that belief that you can, like you said, get through the tough things. Like I got through this tough thing. I'm still, standing here today. And I think that can just make such a big difference. Like I said, the life moments, Donato, I feel led to emotionally eat from time to time, right? Like if I'm stressed or if it's just been a super bad day, I want something comforting, and I think I'm not alone in that. But having gratitude in moments that might lead me to emotionally eat has really helped me kind of talk myself off the ledge, like I mentioned. Like I think back to I have a little Toyota Prius that has 176,000 miles on it, and God bless, it's paid
Wow.
off, and I am running that thing into the ground, right? But I had an issue with with a part in the vehicle where I had to get it replaced, and my first quote was like over $800 I was gonna have to pay, and I was like, oh no. And then I kept calling and getting these different quotes. I think that I actually got it down to $400. So I'm thinking, okay, whew. But in a past life, that would just have sent me over the edge. That would have made my whole day terrible. I would have just wanted to go home and eat, right? But and then gratitude is thinking, well, thank God I have a job that I can afford to pay for this part in my car, and I have a car that's paid off, and it gets me from point A to point B. And there was someone out there who was willing to do it for half the price that I was originally quoted. And just like I actually was saying some of this stuff out loud, and I could feel myself just calming down to where I had that clarity of mind to just stick to my healthy plan and not feel like I had to like self-soothe with food. I think like as we mentioned that the gratitude is a life thing, but it can impact the day to day, in our journey.
I'm curious. At
Yeah,
176,000 miles, how many years old is it?
it's a 2009.
So it's 2009. So if you really think about it, it gave you 176,000 miles of life, and now it asks for an $800
Yeah.
repair job, right? So you could be thankful for that, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, we have a whole testimony together, me and my car. But like I said, I have, that sense of gratitude to say, like, okay, if this is the worst part of my month, or if this is the worst part of this year, or whatever, because when we get into those intense states, we just think, this is the worst thing that could possibly ever happen. It's like drama. I was voted most dramatic in high school. So I was thinking, oh my gosh. But then you just take a breath and you think, okay, like I have a functioning car. I have someone that can fix it. I have a dad who's knowledgeable and still around to where I can call and be like, Dad, what do I do? And just all of those little things, it can help cool you down. And then, it's just, life goes on. Because what I think, what I've realized is life happens fast and there's always something. You think about like a health and wellness journey, we wait for the stars to align where everything's just simple and easy, but life happens fast and there something always comes up, so we have to figure out how can we navigate this, how can we get through it, because we know giving up's not an option.
Yeah, our success is built in the moments where we're challenged, not in the
Mhm.
moments where everything's going easy.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's normal, on social media to paint a pretty picture, to think, oh, everything's fine. And but I mean, there are those little challenges in day-to-day life that if you let them, they could totally derail you, and they're valid. But I think gratitude, expressing those things and just recognizing the bigger picture can be helpful. You'd mentioned your support. You were grateful for your support. Do you want to talk a
Yeah,
little bit more about that?
sure. My wife,
Shout out Joanne. Woohoo.
she has this uncanny ability to make. I hate vegetables. Okay, I mean, I can't even tell you how much I hate vegetables and how in the beginning part of my journey I almost never ate them.
Mhm.
And then she'll just take ingredients and throw it in the vegetables, and all of a sudden the vegetable tastes completely different. And and you're like, all right, I'll taste it, and you reluctantly taste it, and it's like, wait a minute, this is pretty good actually. And she takes like the steam bag of mixed vegetables, like the carrots and the corn and the peas and the string beans. She'll take something like that and she adds some seasoning to it, maybe even like chops up an onion, whatever it might be, and adds it to it. And all of a sudden, this little steam bag,
Mhm.
which anybody else would have just popped it in the microwave and put it in the bowl and eat it. She turned it into like a dish as if she prepared it
Mhm.
just by adding a few things to it. But she'll look in the cabinet and she'll say, well, I have this ingredient, that ingredient. Let me just see how this works out. And she just throws things together and it tastes phenomenal. And she finds different ways to make things because we eat pretty regimentedly and we eat the same things, but she makes them always taste just a little bit different, just
So
in
you
her
don't get
way.
bored.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a magician in the kitchen.
She is. She definitely, and she is creative too. Because she loves to bake too, right? So
Mhm.
she is very creative in what she substitutes to try and bring down the point value of
Mhm.
whatever she's baking.
Yeah. I think it's so fun when folks get creative like that. And so, yeah, Joanne's a sun drop herself. She listens to the
She
podcast
does. She
and
does.
she's a fellow WW family member. So I think it's so great. Do you feel like y'all both pursuing health and wellness has made a big difference for your personal journey, having Joanne kind of on a similar path?
It does. You're only as good as your weakest link,
Mm,
in many ways. So having the extra support of someone else on the same journey in the same household, of course, that's going to help you. It's going to help immensely, right? And especially in the moments where one is feeling weak, then, the other has to be strong in that moment, right?
mhm.
And it helped big time. Now it's kind of like, it's like cruise control, right? You get so many years in, you become so mature in the journey that it's just like keep going, execute, 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 right?
Mhm.
But in the beginning, where all of the bumps in the road, where because you decide I'm going to make this change in my life, and Murphy's law just says, "Oh yeah, okay, let's see how badly you want this."
Yeah.
And that's when stuff like that, support like that, having someone on the journey at the same time, those moments are much more strengthened because of that.
Yeah. So I think it's wonderful that you have that gratitude for Joanne. I'm sure she would say the same thing about you, and how much you all benefit each other and what you bring to the table for her journey, her spicing up a steamed bag of vegetables, right? But I'm sure the mindset piece and a lot, you contribute as well. And I think it's just so great y'all have each other with that because, Rachel and I, both of our partners are not WW members. And not that I think my partner needs to be a WW member, but it would be fun, and just to have someone that in common with each other. And I'm trying to slowly invite him to the gym, so we'll see how that goes. Because I think it's just great to do something like that together and have that, overall commitment to health. But I think that's so. My mom and my dad are both on their health and wellness journey together, and my mom they both started off on WW. My dad since switched to calorie counting, which my mother has not been happy with because now she has to do all of the with the recipes, configuring the calories. But she's like, whatever works for him, fine. But I think it's so great that they have each other in that and that you and Joanne have that as well. Now I'm going totally off script here, or off book, if you will. I just got to know, Donato, I don't know if you've had a podcast on this already, but what are your thoughts on the Weight Watchers program update? Because our last episode kind of dived into our initial thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts and
um,
like our final moments together, just what you've been thinking about. Because it's like the hot topic, of the month.
well, I kind of take it with a grain of salt, to be honest. I think that there's a reason they keep saying it's like the blue plan, and and it is to appease the mind or to set it in a certain way. But when I went through the previous change,
Mhm.
um, it triggered uh, a bad thing in my life. Where when I first started WW, I had 54 points a day because I was so heavy. But I I would end up with 20 some odd points at the end of the day,
Mhm.
and then I would go eat 20 points worth of Weight Watcher snacks
Mm.
because they were Weight Watcher snacks, right? And I had those 20 points. That's what Weight Watchers gave me.
Mhm.
The scale came to a halt, and I had to realize, hey, listen, common sense tells you can't eat 20 points worth of snacks at 8 or 9 o'clock at night and expect to lose weight. And so when personal points came about, there were moments because of the ability to earn points by eating vegetables and all this stuff, where there were certain nights of the week where I was like 19 points remaining.
Mm.
And that hadn't happened. And I found myself battling that same like little inner voice, like, ooh, what could we use these points for? And it
Right.
was like excitement, And I don't like that because here we are one Tuesday, the Tuesday before personal points, I had 9 points at the end of the night, and it's no big deal.
Mhm.
The Tuesday after personal points, I have 19 points, and I'm looking for something to eat.
Right.
And meanwhile, the 2 days menus were identical,
You were eating a
right?
lot of
Because
vegetables.
right. And eating the vegetables, eating 0 points foods, because I take
Mhm.
advantage of these things. And Tuesday was always my lightest day of the week, even before, right? Even before personal points. But when we switched to personal points, all of a sudden I have almost 20 points in the evening
Mhm.
again, and this old demon comes up in me. So this switch back made it so it's like, okay,
Mhm.
that Tuesday is just any other Tuesday now. It's not this 19-point night. And it got to the point where it was bothering me so much, I felt like I had to create a system to battle the idea that there are points there, that I'm
Right.
leaving points there.
Mhm.
And so I started doing a quick ad, and I put BPB, breaking psychological barriers.
Mm.
And whatever point value would bring it under 10, that's what I gave it. So any night where I had over 10 points, I would just put it in the snack section, BPB, and I would make it whatever point value it needed to be.
Yeah.
And so I did that religiously for probably 3 weeks. And then I realized I was forgetting to do it. And
Mm.
when I forgot to do it, that made me see you don't really need it anymore. You're okay
Right.
now.
Yeah.
Eh,
You were kind of breaking that behavior of, oh, just because I have these points here, well, let me see how I can spend them, even though I might not really be hungry. And then the
Right.
not, the 8 or 9 points that you might leave yourself, that would be totally manageable if you actually ended up being hungry and you wanted a
Right.
snack versus like the 19. I
But
feel,
even so,
yeah,
like we went from blue to personal points and now
a
sort of blue,
hybrid.
whatever it is, right? Um, in all of that time, in all of those plans, that's 3 plans I just mentioned, my eating never changed
Hmm.
in that time. The foods I liked stayed the foods I liked, and either I ate them on that day or I ate them on a different day, whatever the case may be, but they never physically changed. So when this change came, I'm like, well, I'm not going to change the food I eat because the plan changed. We'll just see
Right.
what it deals with. We'll see
Yeah.
how it ends up, and we'll keep going. I
I think,
just I have a gripe with personal points that has nothing to do with me.
mhm.
It has to do with people around me that I watch struggle through it, and I had a gripe with personal points because of that.
Yeah, I definitely struggled with personal points in silence for the entire year. Being a coach, it's hard to express a lot of your own opinions about things because you don't want it to influence others and how they're perceiving something. But I definitely struggled with the moving target of the daily budget and just kind of like knowing, okay, I not might not get my blue dot, but I could eat all my points. But now there's all these, a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on the blue dot, and it was just kind of
Right.
it was a mind warp. So I'm glad that things are simplified. But I love what you said is that if we're going through a program update, it doesn't necessarily mean that the food that we eat has to change at all. If we've been
Right.
establishing our healthy pattern of eating, we just keep rocking and rolling, and just the way that we track it or the way that it formulates up in the points might be a little bit different, but otherwise we
I
just
feel like
keep doing what works.
there's two different behaviors, right? Like
Mhm.
you have people that they don't want to let go of the food they ate that made the problem, that created their problem in the first place, right?
Mhm.
So, and I'm not saying that they have to get rid of it, but there has to be some sort of control.
Right.
And they will work the program so they can still eat these things, right?
Mhm.
Where other people, and that's how I did it in the past. So,
Mhm.
and then when I decided to explore the world of what tastes good that's healthy,
Mhm.
all of a sudden I found a whole different regimen of food that I enjoy, and I never have to worry about anything like that.
Right, you didn't have to overthink it or
Right.
strategize too
And
much. It's just fits
basically
right in.
these foods are good, and regardless of what plan change they come up with, these
Mhm.
foods are going to remain good because they were good to begin with.
Right, the recipes and the ingredients are things that you like, and
Right.
you like the combination of them. So I think that's awesome, Donato. I'm so glad you shared that with our audience because it's not something that Rachel and I have really touched on. So I think that adds value. So I'm grateful for that. for Donato's message today, y'all. Bringing it back to gratitude. So it's about that time for us to just wind down and thinking about the week ahead. So as Donato and I are recording this, we're approaching Thanksgiving week. So Donato, with that in mind, you know, I kind of got a spoiler that his star goal is not specific to this week. But what is the goal that you have in mind for yourself?
So I have set a minimum and maximum, right? When it comes to exercise, I say my minimum is 4 days a week. My maximum is 5 days a week.
Mhm.
And if I hit either or, there's no failure.
Right, you're
just
good.
because as long as I meet the minimum,
Mhm.
I'm good. And that's how I kind of embraced life. And work recently changed, and it changed my schedule, and I had to adapt my whole life to be able to still get the 4 in.
Mhm.
And so there's 2 nights or 2 days of the week where I was waking up at 4 a.m. to make sure I still got the exercise done.
Mhm.
And I noticed I recently had this whole episode with my belt. I pulled it out like 3 or 4 more inches longer than I normally would. And I said, well, wait, that's different, and it doesn't have like the little holes in the belt. So I can't say, oh, well, this is a new hole. It's like one of those
The
rope
length of
belts
the
where
strap, yeah.
right. So it was the length of what was remaining was a lot longer. And I had to contribute it to because I had to make this adaptation. And I was using Leslie Sansone at 4 o'clock in the morning because I don't like walking in the dark.
Right. Understandable.
So I was using Leslie Sansone, and I feel like because of it's just a more efficient workout. I can walk for 3.5 miles, and it takes me an hour and a half outside.
Mm-hmm.
And Leslie makes me do it in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
It's the same, it's the same distance technically, but it's done in 45 minutes. And I feel like this is a contributing factor. So my goal is to make, number one, 5 workouts consistent.
Okay.
No more minimum. The 5, it's going to be 5. And then maybe one day it'll be 6 and 5, shift up. But I want 2 of those or 3 of those to be Leslie. I don't want to lose the Leslie workouts, even though, because now my schedule is going back to normal. I don't want to go back to where I was. I want to kind of stick this out.
Right.
So my goals are over 6-week periods.
Okay. I love it's like what I say in the podcast, wash, rinse, and repeat. I set a goal and I just keep at that same goal for a while until it feels almost like non-negotiable or just automatic, or it feels so good that I'm like, well, why wouldn't I continue this? And y'all realize Donato didn't go from 4 to 7 or 4 to 6. It was like 4 to 5. That's it, right? And then okay, well, let me just sit at 5 for a while until I feel comfortable, and then maybe I'll go up to 6, right? And that's what we talk about so much, is the truly doable, the baby step aspect of it. So I
then
wonder,
to be able to monitor it over 6-week time, 6-week period,
to see what the impact is. That's I wonder if Leslie Sansone knows that she's like a Weight Watchers legend. I just think about that all the time. Like, does she know how many people talk about her in the Weight Watchers world, or how many people use her videos?
I'm sure there's something, there's something to it, but she's
imagine
definitely...
if they had like a meet and greet with Leslie Sansone in Weight Watchers Studios. Like, it would be packed. I mean, we'd break it Ticketmaster just like they did.
I agree.
Gotta love her. So my star goal for this week, I don't know about y'all listening, but I know Thanksgiving is just a day. And for me, it really is just the day I'm not celebrating with multiple different families this week, or different households and this and that. I don't even think there's a Friendsgiving on the calendar, which makes me sound like my life is sad, but you know how it is. But we have just the things, and I would just love to look at this week as Thanksgiving as the day, because I have a lot of healthy meals already ready to go in my fridge for the whole week. And I would just like to eat the Thanksgiving food that I know I really only get once a year on Thanksgiving Day, and just let that be the day, and not let it turn into like a Thanksgiving 4-day weekend. That's my intention for the week. 'Cause, I know that more deliciously wonderful High Point holiday food is just around the corner, in the next couple of weeks. So just let this be the day, track
You know,
it, and
a
move
lot
on.
of what's on the Thanksgiving table though is not very bad if you
M-
really think about it.
No.
I mean, if you measure,
Hmm.
if you do what's required, you know, you measure and weigh and do whatever you need to do. A lot of it is not so bad.
Right. And there's all obviously, like you were mentioning with your wife, you can swap ingredients out and make things even more lower in point and still delicious. We've done that, because my mom is on Weight Watchers as well, and she's made all of her go-to recipes for the holidays lower in point. So she has her low point version and then her true high point version, and we've tracked all of it. We've built the recipes, so I just have to go mom's mac and cheese, and whatever the
Yeah,
serving I think it is. And so it makes it a lot easier. I don't, have a reason not to measure. And the turkey breast, that's
yeah.
totally manageable, and veggies and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I just really, it's the mac and cheese that can make a big impact on me if I'm eating it every single day.
You know, the one thing I love every year is I have to do it, and I do it once, and then that's it.
Hmm.
I eat Thanksgiving, and I have that Thanksgiving, but then I tell my wife, just keep a little bit of each thing so I
Hmm.
can make a sandwich.
Yeah.
And everything that's on the table goes in a sub, and I have it once a year, just once a year. That's my sandwich, the
That's
Thanksgiving leftover sandwich. Everything on
Yes.
the table in one roll.
I love it. The Donato Thanksgiving special. That is so wonderful, and I love, love, love that idea. Now, Donato, it's your turn to share a recommendation for our listeners, something that
Okay,
you would recommend.
I could tell you something that changed my life
Ooh,
at this
let's
point.
hear it.
I read an article, and I wish to God that I kept that article
Mm-hmm.
because I can't tell you how many times I've told someone about it. But this article said if you battle with nighttime eating
Mm-hmm.
and you really want it to stop, do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I followed it, and I haven't had a nighttime meal since.
Is this referring to meals like after dinner, or like getting
Yeah,
up in the
like
middle of the night
yes,
and
when
okay,
you
okay.
so they're after dinner. If you want to stop the evening, you know, head to the
Snacking
fridge, be
and yeah.
snacking and whatever else. Do this at dinner, and you'll never crave anything
Mm,
after dinner ever again. And the article said, whatever you eat, make sure the plate is primarily protein.
mm,
You can have your carb, you can have your, you know, vegetables, whatever you want, but primarily the majority of it is protein. And eat all of the protein first
mm.
before anything else. And if you finish it all, it's no big deal. But the body ends up working so hard to digest the protein that there is no craving in the evening. I applied this theology. And then when I talk about, I'm not talking about like 6-7 ounces of protein. I'm talking about 10-12 ounces of protein. And I usually choose something lean like, you know, chicken or whatever else. But whenever, from the day one that I did that, I never craved anything sweet, anything at all, really,
Mhm.
from day one.
Yeah. And I can totally see that, because you're taking care of your body's macronutrient needs. Oftentimes when we're craving something, it can come from a place of our body is lacking something that it needs, and so then our brain kind of misfires signals and whatnot. But yeah, protein is such an important macronutrient, and not like you said, it does take our body time to break it down, and that's what helps you to stay full and then satisfied. And I love that now with, Weight Watchers program, we do have so many 0 point protein options to
Right.
really,
And that's how I
lean
took
into.
advantage of it.
Yeah, I
I
think that's
chose a
great.
0 point, and I kind of abuse it, to be honest. But
So hey y'all, I mean we can take that tip into the holiday season as well when we're looking at
right,
those the table of food, prioritize the protein and lean to it first and let that
exactly,
impact the hunger level as proceed through to the sweet potato pie, which will be a part of my menu. Right? But then we might not be as inclined to go back for a second
right.
serving later in the night. So I love that recommendation. I would love to recommend y'all. We have a challenge happening in my coach-led Connect group on the WW app with gratitude. So I just encourage you every day, even over the next week, just write down 3 things you're grateful for. They can be directly tied to your health, or just I'm grateful for sweater weather. Right, or I'm grateful for a car that's still functioning, right? But anything that can, bring joy and help you to recognize that bigger picture, like we were mentioning earlier, I think can be so helpful for our mindset. This time of year can bring a lot of joy and fun and beauty, but it can also bring a lot of sadness and stress and frustration. So whenever we can link back to gratitude, I think it'll help pull us through those more challenging times, like Donato had said. All right, everybody. Well, thanks again, Donato, for hanging out with us today. Y'all
Thanks
check
for
out his
having me.
podcast, The Ranting Weight Watcher, if you have not already. I'm sure you will absolutely enjoy it. And we appreciate you dropping by. I hope you have a magical day. Thanks,
Hopefully, we
everyone.
can come back and do this again after the new year with all 3 of us.
Yay! Yes, we most certainly will have to do that. We miss you, Rachel. All right, we'll see y'all very soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye.